Welcome and welcome back to the stream. This is Live Free or Die Bard, Episode 12, Ballroom Blitz. We are making a custom homebrew Dungeons & Dragons 5th edition campaign from scratch. Welcome to those of you in the chat. If you're returning from last time, we are approaching the end of our first adventure. This is the climax that we are writing today. So lots of fun stuff going on. Episode 12, we're quite a few in. Spoiler warning for any of you who are planning to play this particular campaign in the future. Everything is public and on the website, which is Obsidian Portal. The address is listed above my head up here. livefreeordieBard.obsidianportal.com. If you don't know what Obsidian Portal is, it's a campaign management website where you can showcase your campaigns, keep all of your game notes, use it for player handouts, maps, all kinds of fun stuff. You can play by post in the forums, whatever you want to do, find players. The stream itself, Live Free or Die Bard. We are level 1 adventurers in a city. They are an entertainment troupe of some kind, possibly all bards, possibly other things, acrobats, who knows what. And they are going on adventures. We are writing the first one now and finishing it up pretty soon. Let's see what else. In the chat, if you want to contribute, feel free at any time. Any suggestions you want put into the game, we're looking for funny musical puns at every opportunity. We have quite a few already, but we need lots more, so feel free to put those in the chat. If you're watching this outside of Twitch, perhaps on YouTube later on down the road, we post them about a week after they go on Twitch. You can put comments, and I will find them and incorporate them somehow into the game. But thanks for joining us. Let's talk about the upcoming holiday schedule. In about 3 weeks is Thanksgiving. Thanksgiving falls on a Thursday, so does my stream. So I will probably not be streaming on that particular Thursday. We will come up with an alternate schedule for what that's going to look like, maybe the day before or something. We'll find out shortly. But the goal is to have adventure number 1 wrapped up by that point so that we have a complete adventure and can sort of go from start to finish, getting our players from level 1, hopefully to level 2 if they have survived. They are hooked into our meta plot, and we can get them into whatever games we want beyond that. Let's see, where should we get started? There is one trick that I learned on Tuesday night. If you're not watching our other Twitch stream, our other program, it's Kalak Codes. He's doing custom CSS coding on an OP page, and I did pick up a trick from him on that. I'm going to attempt to show it to you here. It's about embedding images. I'm going to show you the final product, and then I'll show you how to do it. This is your edit page, so we'll go there in a second. But for your adventure log, so whenever I want to introduce a new NPC, I would love to have their picture show up. We've been putting the pictures in our character section, and I want them to appear here also, so they're ready to go in the notes. We're using the adventure log in this case to keep our GM notes so they can run the adventure straight out of here. And just read as they go. So I learned a trick on Tuesday. Kalak was doing his stream without his mod didn't show up for some reason, the jerk. And so he didn't have one. But he did perfectly fine. It was probably the best show that he's done up till that point. So maybe he doesn't need a mod. I don't know. But so this is the trick that I learned, is how to stick an image into your, you can do it on your wiki pages, you can do it on your adventure log, whatever you want. I'm going to show you how to do it. Let me go into the edit section. You can, of course, do a an image embed if you have it stored in your images section in your media. But I will show you where the code is. Here it is. Okay. So this is the little line of code that you want right here. Let me make sure it's up where you can see it. Basically what you're doing is you're inserting a link, and then you're changing the display portion of the link. That's anything that comes after this horizontal line. You're changing this display portion into the image location, the URL for the image. I think you can also do it with certain kinds of slugs. You can go watch the VOD on Kalak's previous broadcast and find that information if you want more. But I'm going to show you the quick and dirty version. So let's find another image we want to do. Let me open up my characters section. In the characters, these are all of our characters that we have. I want to insert Mayor Petty Tom. So here he is. Here's his image. In order to get the link that I need, I'm going to right click on this image, and we're going to view the image. This brings him up here. This is the URL where his image is stored, so I'm going to Control-C to copy that image so I have that on my clipboard ready to go. Now let's go back into our edit window for our adventure log. And where's the first time we see the mayor? Okay, here's where we see the mayor the first time. The mayor steps up to give a speech, quietly condemning the actions of the church and calling for mercy. So I'm going to insert an image of him right here to show you how to do it. So I wanted to link so that when you click on the image, it goes to the character page itself. I'm going to do a character link. We're going to search by mayor and insert. So normally this would be a text link, and it would just say Mayor Petty Tom, and you would click on it and go there. I want the text to not be text, I want it to be the picture, so I'm going to replace that with Control-V, and replace that with my, this is my image URL. I'm going to enclose that particular URL with exclamation points on both sides. Let's go down and save it and see if I did it correctly. Saving, we're back at the adventure, and then the first time we see the mayor, here's his image that shows up, so that you as the GM have a little reminder. You can flip your tablet screen around, whatever you're playing games on and using OP on, and show everybody the picture right there, ready to go. You can go in and further customize these things with different CSS to if you want it smaller, moved around, things like that. You can do that. In order to find out more, though, I highly suggest that you watch Kalak's stream on Tuesdays. That is 10 p.m. Eastern Time, which, now that we've had daylight savings, I think is GMT -5, if you are internationally inclined, or Greenwich Mean. Okay, so that's how you do, that's what I learned on Tuesday, so we've got that. So I could go through and insert links whenever we encounter an NPC for the first time. We could have them show up in our adventure as a picture. Let's do a quick review of where we've got to so far. I'll walk you through it. This is the outline. We've gotten the party, our adventuring party level 1 characters. We have 6 sample character archetypes that we're using, because we don't know who's actually going to be playing the game. So we've got some placeholders there. We've gotten them into the city. We've given them some sites to look at. We've had them meet a couple of the NPCs that we need them to meet. We've hooked them into the adventure with Priscilla, who owns the Heartbreak. Gets them on a kill the rats in the cellar, standard low-level Dungeons & Dragons quest. In the process of killing the rats, hopefully they find the dungeon underneath the city, which is where we go in Section 2. We built the city, we give them a mini dungeon crawl, and hook them into the meta plot by giving them our scale. This is a scale shaped as a shield with some embossing on it, if you can't see it. We have yet to decorate that because we need to make a bunch more. There's 8 of them. It's an octave scale key set. That's in the dungeon. They find the first one of those. They don't know what it is. You also find some secret passages leading into different parts of the city, which they can use for the next section. Part 3 is they leave the dungeon White Wedding. An unwilling bride-to-be needs the band's help. We introduce them to another character, an NPC who requires help, Evie Nix. She's about to be married at a big party. She gives the PCs, that's player characters if you're new to D&D, she gives the PCs two tickets to Paradise, which is the title of the adventure, and says, please come save me from my own wedding, get me out of there. And hopefully they accept if they're heroes, because that's what heroes do. And we get them into what we worked on last time, which was the manor house, which I believe we have a little, I forgot where I put my map. Oh, it's in my media library. Yes, in my media library down here, I have the mayor's mansion map, which we did last time. We worked on an isometric grid layout and how to do that. So you can watch a previous episode if you want to learn how to do that the relatively easy way. So we got them into the mansion. We have them set up with different options of how to get there. And once they're in there, then we bring them to where we are now, which is the exciting climax. Oh yeah, there it is. The ballroom, which is where, hopefully, if things go according to plan, we have our climactic confrontation with our mini-boss, which we're going to work on today. So the ballroom and the area immediately outside of the ballroom is where we're going to have our combat. So what do we need for that? First thing is, when you're setting up a combat, we want this to be sort of the highlight of the evening. This is the super exciting part. And we are catering specifically, let me show you in our characters here. These are our player character archetypes. We're catering specifically in this one to Polly the Power Gamer, who enjoys combat and statistics and the dice rolling sections of the game. They like feeling powerful. They like feeling in control, like they're an epic hero. This is where we can let them show off a little bit with that. We will also have options for Alice the actor, who enjoys the role-playing aspects of role-playing. And we'll have options for her to talk her way out of situations or to distract people. Eddie the escapist will enjoy a raucous ballroom brawl. We're going to teach Norbert the noob some more combat tricks for mass combat. And poor Wanda the world builder hasn't got a lot to do yet. We're still working on making sure that she has some stuff going on, but we'll get there. So the first thing you need, definitely, we're going to need him in a minute. Brad to the bone. And Evie Nix is there too. But, so the first thing we need is our interesting battlefield, which we worked on last time. An interesting battlefield for a climactic battle is important because you want players to have lots of options. We don't want it to be a big blank room. So let's look at our description so far. The raucous sounds of laughter, polite conversation, and music radiate from this large, brightly lit chamber. Crystal chandeliers are aglow with hundreds of tall candles. A fresco of dancing fey folk is obscured by the shimmering lights above you. The heat of 100 bodies, tightly wrapped in layers of costuming, this is a masquerade ball, strikes you like a wave, despite the open double doors leading both to the dining room and the gardens outside. Dozens of windows reflect the party scene like mirrors. Tall paintings of famous musicians fill the space between the glass mask of masqueraders, flow like brightly colored leaves in a swirling pond of wealth. Various musical instruments and side tables line the edges, but the beautifully tiled dance floor has been polished and is awaiting only the right song and dancing feet to fulfill its purpose. And then you have bunches of people in there doing what you do at a masquerade ball. So what can we work with in the ballroom so far? What have we already given them? We know it's noisy, so they can do sneaky stuff and try and get away with it. There's lots of people, so they can hide in plain sight. They can disappear into a crowd if they get into trouble. until that crowd runs away, which they will once a fight breaks out. We'll get into that. You have shimmering lights above you like chandeliers, something a clever player who is acrobatically inclined can use that to climb and swing. You've got lots of people to manipulate. You can use them as human shields or elven shields or dwarven shields, whatever you happen to have in your world. It's your world. Do what you want. Happy little trees. We've got open doors on several sides of the room. We have gardens outside for an escape route. We have lots and lots of windows to smash through. Paulie the Power Gamer might be a fan of smashing through windows or throwing people through them. Use that to your advantage. Welcome, Concrete Fodder, and everyone else who's in the chat also. Please feel free to contribute ideas into the chat. I will incorporate as many as I can into the game. Let us know what you're up to in your own game worlds too. I'd like to hear all kinds of stories. We've got lots of glass to break. We've got lots of paintings. People could grab a painting if they need an improvised weapon, smash it over somebody's head. Always good for comedic effect. There are likely wealthy people here with walking sticks that could be grabbed and used as an improvised club. Maybe somebody has a sword cane. If somebody's looking for a weapon, you can hand that out. Good day to you, Velos. Welcome back. Various musical instruments and side tables line the edges of our room, so those could also be picked up, used as cover. Perhaps there's a harpsichord or something fairly big that could be rolled into position or used as a battering ram, something like that. And critically, also, the beautifully tiled dance floor has been polished, so any kind of sliding maneuvers, spilling wine on the ground could create slippery conditions. Your DMG and Player's Handbook have rules for that sort of thing, for movement over difficult terrain. So we've got lots of stuff to work with in our ballroom courtyard area that would be appropriate for a nice epic battle. It's a big space, lots of people in it to start, and then we're going to do some damage to it over the course of time, hopefully. Or maybe not. There's different options for that, but we'll get into that in the second half of the show. So that's our interesting battlefield, always important, even the small battles, if you can make them a little bit interesting and not just a 15 by 15 room with an orc in a chest. Give them something to swing in there. Give them some Jackie Chan ladder moments, that kind of stuff. Whatever you can. A good DM will throw in lots of props into the descriptions and let creative players use those. All right, let's talk about designing combat encounters. If you haven't done this before, it's intimidating at first when you're looking at some of the math, but it's actually pretty easy in 5th edition, especially compared to previous editions. They made it about as easy as it was back in 2nd edition, where I started playing, which was you just sort of stare at it, see if it looks like a good encounter, and then put it in your game. They get a little more math on this one, but it's not too hard. I'm going to walk you through it. Designing combat encounters. If you have your DMG with you, you can follow along class and go to page 82. That's where we will be looking. You can also download some of the rules from Wizards of the Coast themselves. You can go to, I'm using this particular website right now. Actually, let me get rid of this. I forgot to get rid of the web address here so you can see a little better. Zip. All right, if you can't see this one, this is the 5thsrd.org. That's 5thsrd.org. This has a handful of some of the rules in a fairly searchable form. So you can find things on game mastering and combat and making characters and adventuring, all sorts of stuff like that. So you can follow along on whatever you like. I will walk you through for a while. 3.0 guy. We played a lot of 3.0, a lot of 3.5 too. Started with the red box, nice. I was second edition. It's advanced, Mark. Advanced D&D. Back in the day, we played through Skills and Powers. Skills and Powers led up to when they switched to third edition, and it was like, oh, that's pretty cool. There was lots of stuff, and then when they did 3.5, after we had bought all of our 3.0 books, we were like, now we're poor again. But they did make some decent improvements. We played 3.5, our gaming group did, for like a decade. I don't remember. So that's the one I probably have the most experience with in time. And then we moved from that to lots of other game systems too. But in terms of D&D, we tried 4th edition. It was fine for a video game. If you like video games, it's a very video game style edition. And he says, now I'm poor again. LOL. He would know because I believe he has all the White Wolf books. So, but yeah, when we tried 4th edition, it was not really our style, so we moved away from that. We did lots of Pathfinder. Pathfinder was super fun. It was very much like 3.5 in lots of ways with lots of options. And then we eventually moved to 5th Ed. 5th Ed is super easy on the GM, on the DM, and the players. Disadvantage, advantage, great mechanic, lots of streamlined, simplified stuff, really easy to run. So, 5th Ed's a good one for, especially if you're new to making games and playing games. It's a great one to start. There are others that are more streamlined, but 5th Ed's really popular. It's easy to find all the books. I, for example, I just picked up a copy of Savage Worlds. Crazy easy, but I haven't learned it all yet. So maybe a future stream on that one when I learn that one. All right, let's talk about making encounters. So combat encounters, we want to have the fight in the ballroom. We want to have it be challenging, but not too challenging. Remember, these are level 1 characters, and we do not want to murder them. We have trained them briefly on how combat works. We've had 2 fights with sewer rats, slightly beefier versions of the regular rats out of the book that we customized and made ourselves. You can check those out in the adventure log for where to get their stats, and there's a bestiary in the wiki for Obsidian Portal, or Obsidian Portal page. And so we want to have a fight of some kind or other conflict with one of our mini bosses, which was, where is he here? Baron Brad to the Bone. He's our mini boss that we're going to be working on today. If you haven't seen this before, this is a DST. It's a dynamic sheet template. You can use these in OP. They are user-made character sheets that you fill out. There are different options for different game systems, depending on what game system your OP campaign is set to. You may have some character sheets to choose from. This is one of several of the 5th Ed character sheets. Basically, you edit it and fill in the blanks, and that's how you get your stuff in there, so it's nice and easy to read. Obviously, we have filled out a name and not much else for this guy, so we're going to be filling him out today. But we need to make the combat encounter safe enough without being too safe for our players. So let's look at what we've got going on. Our characters. We have 6 player characters. We're going to use this as our sample group so I can show you how to do, how to build encounters out of the book. I'll walk you through the steps, and then you can try it on your own when you have time to do that. So 6 level 1 player characters. You can throw a little bit of a challenge at them, but not too much, because some of these guys, if they're playing, let's say, a wizard, can die in a single hit, and you don't want that to happen. So well, I mean, you might, but I don't. So we're going to build the combat encounter. Page 82 of your DMG is where this starts, technically page 81. But all the charts and stuff you need are on 82. So I'm going to walk you through. It's a multi-step process. I'll be reading off to the side here, so I may lose me in the camera for a second. My long distance vision is not great. pull it up here. So we are in, this is what the DMG looks like if you haven't seen it before. Throw it up there. All right, so page 82, you get a big old chart with some numbers on it, and that's what we're using to start with. So let's read through the steps and follow along, and I'll show you what we're going to do. So we're going to determine your XP thresholds, and this is the experience point threshold for each character in the party. It's by level. If you're looking at the table, it's the first one at the very top. And it gives you encounter difficulties of easy, medium, hard, and deadly, and then descriptions of what those mean. Easy is something that doesn't tax the characters at all. They might lose a couple hit points, but that's not much. And then a deadly, all the way up to a deadly encounter, which could be lethal for one or more of the players. Survival often requires good tactics and quick thinking, and the party risks defeat. We don't want to give them a deadly, but we don't want to give them an easy either. So we're focusing on the mediums and the hards. It is possible to die in some of these. It's also possible to die just because of bad die rolls. But that's the risk you take when you adventure. Okay, so we've got all level 1 characters. That's nice and easy. So for each category of, this is step 2, determine the party's XP threshold. For each category of encounter difficulty, you're adding up the character's XP thresholds. And you'll end up with different totals for the different categories. For example, if your party includes 3 third level characters and 1 second level character, then you would have 75 plus 75 plus 75 plus 50 for an easy, for a total of 275 XP. That's your threshold. Ours is a bit higher. We are a party of 6 level 1 characters. So for a medium encounter difficulty, a single level 1 character gets 50. Times 6 is 300. So 300 for medium. Then when you would write that down. Step 3, you total the monster's XP. This is adding up the XP for all the monsters in the encounter. For example, if you had kobolds are challenge rating 1/8 and they're worth 25 XP a pop. So if you had, let's say you wanted to throw 8 kobolds at them, you would have 200 XP. So your 200 XP would be the kobold's 200 XP would be being compared to your party's XP threshold. That's what we're doing here. We're trying to match these up to see how tough of an encounter it's going to be. So that was step 3, and then you modify step 4, the total XP for multiple monsters. If you have more than 1 monster, then your multipliers change. For example, if you have 1 monster, it's a times 1 multiplier. Nothing changes. If you have 2 monsters, it's times 1.5. So our 200 XP worth of kobolds would turn into 300 XP worth of kobolds because there's several of them. I did that wrong. We have 8 kobolds, so ours is 2.5, so it would turn into 500, yes, 500 XP. So there's just a little chart down here that you follow. So then you compare the 8 kobolds, 500 XP versus the challenge ratings, the XP thresholds of your party. So it would be 5 times as deadly. It would be many times deadly for a single level 1 character, but it would not necessarily be that deadly for a group of them because our party size is slightly larger than normal. The math also changes. There's a little section on that. So basically you're following along on the steps on page 82, and that's how you're doing it. We want to, okay, so for our particular group, with the large party modifier and the 8 kobolds, for example, we would end up with 8 kobolds would be a medium hard difficulty. It would be somewhere in between medium and hard because it ends up being 400 XP with the party size modifier. Okay, let's do, there's another version of this. It's giving us a budget for XP. So if we want to build our NPC combatants, we need a budget for how much XP we need to give them to spend on them to make it a tough enough encounter. I'm going for somewhere between medium and hards. I'm going to do both calculations and I'm going to walk you through it. So basically, you're doing the same thing you were before. You're determining your XP thresholds for your party. We already know those. Our party of 6 level 1 guys. A medium is 50 for a single person, 75 for a hard for a single person. Times 6, we end up with 300 threshold for a medium, 450 for a hard. So that's the number we're trying to compare to, somewhere between 300 and 450 ish. If we go up to 600, that would be a deadly, so we don't want to do that. Okay, so that's our threshold. In order to do the party size and an encounter multiplier calculation, you're using the little chart for encounter multipliers, but you are dividing your XP threshold by your modded multiplier thing. So I went ahead and did the calculations, and it's for mediums and hards, we have a budget of, if we're fighting a single foe, I can give him anywhere between 600 XP and 900 XP worth of stuff, which we're explaining next, to make him a challenge that is medium or hard for a party of 6 level 1 adventurers. If we have them fight 2 foes, I can give them 300 XP to 450 XP. 3 to 6 foes, I can give them 200 XP to 300 XP. 7 to 10 foes, which is a lot, they're only going to get 150 XP to 225 XP. The reason it's significantly lower is because if you have that many people taking swings at you, the odds are very bad that you are going to survive that. So you get less points to spend to make it a medium to hard challenge. So that's our little budget, which is again explained on page 83 and 84 of the DMG, if you need to reference that. There's also some calculators online, which make it significantly easier if you just want to use those. Save yourself the math if you want to. Okay, we're moving on. In the DMG also, we now know that our numbers that we want. I'm personally going for somewhere around, if we want them to fight a single foe, between 600 and 900. If we want them to fight a handful of guards, somewhere around 300 XP, let's say. Okay. Page 274 of the DMG has how to create monster stats. Now, technically, we're not fighting monsters, we're fighting NPCs. We're fighting that boss guy and some guards. So, or just the boss guy if you don't want any guards. I think he would have guards myself, but that's just me. So I'm going for a 300 XP amount for, how many did we say? 300 XP for, let's call it 4 foes. So the guy and his guards. Okay. Page 274, creating quick monster stats. That gives you a nice chart that you can use for expected challenge ratings and basic statistics and all that kind of stuff. And then it has experience points by challenge rating chart over there, so you can figure out what you're going for in terms of the challenge rating. So ours was the guy plus 3 guards. So we look over at the experience points by challenge rating. And we figure out roughly what the challenge rating is going to be, somewhere between a 1 and a 2. And we go over onto this other chart where somewhere between the CR1 and CR2, and we can pick our stats based on this little chart, and that's the super fast way to do it. There are other ways to do that, and I will show you in a second. But for this one, somewhere between a challenge rating 1 and 2, you're looking at a proficiency bonus of +2, an armor class of about 13, somewhere between 71 and 100 hit points. That's a lot of hit points. An attack bonus of about +3, that's pretty significant, but not significant enough to ruin anybody's day completely. You're still working mainly on luck of the dice. You're looking for, you're doing above, between 9 and 20 damage around. That's really significant. So single hit kills in some cases for the weaker guys, and then your save DC is about 13. So that's pretty tough for a level 1 encounter, but there's a couple things that are going to be advantageous. One of them is that we are going to make the guards significantly weaker than the mini-boss, and the other thing is that we are going to make the mini-boss run away, so they don't have to completely do all those 100 hit points worth of damage. That's kind of ridiculous. So let's go in and fill out our character sheet for Baron Brad to the Bone. So we go up to the little edit icon, which is the pen and paper, and we go down here and get to our fillable DST character sheet, which you just click on a thing and then fill it out. All right, I'm going to put my book down now that we know some numbers. So those are a good guideline for how to make an encounter challenging to the level that you want it to be. Later on, as you get experience playing the game, it'll be much easier than what I just explained, which sounds like a bunch of numbers if you're not looking at a book directly. So don't worry too much about it. It's not as hard as it sounds. You'll get a feel for it after a while. All right, let's go down and fill out some of the stuff that we know. Alignment, we know he's evil, but he follows the rules, so that's going to be a lawful evil. Let me click OK, and it shows up in our little field. I want Brad to the Bone to be a human. His homeland is Paradise City, which is in the Kingdom of Calliope, but it's more specific than we need. Class, this is basically what role he holds in the party. This could be an NPC class, like an adept or something like that. We're going to give him a PC class just to make it interesting. I think he's going to be a paladin. Evil paladin, you say? In this church, yes. I don't have a good background for him yet. We're going to give him, for deity, Church of Rhea. So those are more things. Faction, also Church of Rhea. And we haven't defined our deities of the church yet, so we're just going to leave that there. I assume it's going to be like a little pantheon. Gender, he is male. Age, he's relatively young, so we're going to make him, let's just call him 20. Height. I'll just make these up. There are charts in the player's handbook and things like that. I think you can roll for random heights. I'm not going to worry about it right now. We're going to make him 5 foot 11 inches. Weight, let's call him 175 pounds. I'm just making these up as we go so we can get down to the stats. Hair, can't tell from the picture exactly, but let's make him dark-haired. Black. Skin, tanned and scarred. That would be give him an appearance of someone who's out in the battlefield, somewhat intimidating. Eyes, let's give him a dark blue eye. And experience points, we don't know how many he's worth yet. We have to do the calculation, I believe, once we figure that out. So I'm going to leave that there. We'll give him the common language, although I'm going to capitalize it. He may have more languages as we go. Okay. So I want to, we already know some of the stats based on the little chart that we were using. We know his proficiency bonus is about a +2. That's already in there. What else do we know? His armor class is going to be about a 13. So we need a combination of dex and armor to total 13. We don't know his dex yet, so we're going to need that. We know his hit points are going to be up there. Which I don't know where they put hit points in this one. Oh, there it is, right there in the middle. So his hit points can be as much as 100 if we need them to be. I don't particularly think we will need quite that many. But let's give him a decent amount. Let's give him about 75. This isn't how you make a normal player character, by the way. I will get into that in a minute. Oh yeah, it's all about the hat. It matches the little comic character because it's not well made. But thank you for the 5 stars. I appreciate it. I will take all the extra DM points I can get so I can level up my DM's levels. All right, so we get hit points. What else did we say? We need our dex for the his attack bonus is going to be somewhere around a +3, which I believe we put here. So we know that's about a +3. We don't know what his weapon is yet. We'll do that in a minute. His damage around is somewhere between 9 and 14 and 15 and 20. We're going to make it on the lower end. So a 9 to 14 would be, what is that? Like 2d6 plus something. Well, it doesn't matter. Let's see if we can put 9 to 14. Let's see if it accepts that in the field. There we go. No, it's about 9 to 14. You can put an average damage there if you'd rather do that. That's a good GM cheat, is to put something in the middle and just pick a number that seems appropriate. What else do we know from our little chart? His save DC is about 13. So I think that goes in some of these. So these will be, they will average out something like a 13, I believe. Okay. So let's work on our ability scores. I like rolling dice. So I wouldn't mind rolling some of his dice. We do have a dice roller on Obsidian Portal. Let me see if that pops up for you guys. And if you need a quick dice roller, you can click that little button if you have an Ascendant account, as I do. It will be there. So typically in D&D, if you want quick and dirty ability scores, you can roll 3d6. So you can take this up to 3, pick the d6 out of here, and click the roll button, and down here at the bottom it will give you your 3d6 roll. So we rolled a 5, a 2, and a 6, and we got a 13. There's lots of other stuff you can do with the dice roller. You can click on the little icons and things, and whenever you click a thing, it will roll a single die of that type. If you need quick rolls like a d20, I rolled an 8 because that's what kind of luck I have. You can add modifiers. If you want to give like a +3 to the roll, you can give +3. You've got your additional options for different kinds of game systems. I don't think you use these for 5th edition D&D, but if you're playing a game like Shadowrun, some of the Shadowrun editions have compounded dice, things like that. You have versus target numbers to count successes, or the total rolls, whatever you need. This covers almost everything that you need out of dice, and anything that it doesn't cover, you can sort of modify a little bit. Like I think there's some games where they use special dice that have like like hits and misses on the dice, and you can just assign numbers to what is a hit and what is a miss, and use that if you want to. So there's a little dice roller. So let's do some of these. So I'm going to do my 3d6, and I'm going to roll it. We need 6 ability scores, so I'm going to roll it 6 times. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and let's see what we got. All right, these are my last. It'll show you the last 10 rolls that you did, so you can roll a bunch. So these are my die rolls: 7, 8, 12, 12, 8, 10. Those are pretty low to average scores. I don't like that completely. So I think that we're going to maybe give him 1 reroll. Let's get rid of that 7 and give him another reroll. See what else we got. I'll click it again. I got a 13. That's a little bit better. All right. So we're going to skip this 7. We're going to give him, let's see. I'll do it in order of magnitude. So we got a 13, 12, 12, 10, 8, 8. 13, 12, 12, 10, 8, 8. We'll go back over here and we'll start plugging in numbers. I want to make him tough. I'm going to give his con the 13. 13. I'm going to make him pretty quick too. 12. He's charming. 12. And then we have 10, 8, 8 as our other scores. He's not going to be the brightest. We'll make him an 8 there. And we'll make him an 8 in wisdom. If you haven't played D&D before, strength is like your muscle power. Dexterity is sort of quickness and deftness with hands. Constitution is toughness, hardiness, resistance, endurance. Intelligence is your sort of book smarts and memory. Wisdom is sort of your common sense, logic. It has to do with perception and awareness. Charisma is a combination of social skill, magnanimity, is that how you say that word? And how you deal with people and creatures and communication and things like that. A little bit of physical attractiveness also. Okay, as you will notice, this particular DST has some auto calculation features, so it goes ahead and plugs in your modifier for you. So for example, a 12 gives you a +1, here's my little +1, an 8 gives you a -1, here's my little -1s. And if you will look at the rest of the sheet, you will also find that it has, in some cases, plugged in the numbers for your bonuses into these things here, like down here with skills. Here's where your saves go. It plugs in your modifiers there. So it does some auto calculation for you, which is really cool. Little extra feature. That's not on every single DST, but that's on many of them. And if you design your own DSTs, which you can submit them for approval, and if they are approved, you can actually get some free subscription time on Obsidian Portal. It's a nice little bonus. They're really cool. Feel free to make some of your own. They're not too difficult, and you can look on other people's work and see what they've done and copy some of the core stuff and then change it up and make it your own. Make whatever you want, or whatever you need for your campaign. Okay, so we got our modifiers, we've got our ability scores in there. You'll notice in some cases it has not put in the bonus, like in this example for Dex, it hasn't put in our Dex modifier +1. That's because you don't always get your Dex modifier on your armor class. That's explained in your rule set for this particular game system. So I want to, let's see, fill out a couple more of these and then we can move on. 30 feet is standard movement. I believe we're going to give our guy his +1 Dex bonus, and we're going to give him armor equivalent to 12. We're not going to give him a shield because he's at a masquerade ball. Why would he have that? But we do want his armor class to be a little bit higher to match that that chart that we were looking at before. Initiative is fine. All that's fine. Intelligence, he's not smart enough to have extra languages, so he only has his native language. What else do we need here? There's no bonus to strength, so any kind of a melee weapon is going to only do about what the dice tell it to do, or what number you assign. So we'll have to figure out what kind of weapon he would have. I'm thinking he's going to have something like a rapier. I envision him as a sort of a swashbuckling, more of a dandy than some kind of crusader paladin type. So we can look up some of the rest of the stuff about rapiers in a minute in our book. Down here we have our saves with modifiers. He's going to be pretty low level, so there's not going to be anything special. This little checkbox over here is for if you're proficient in saves. We can look that up in a second also as part of Paladin. You get traits and feats and class abilities, and we can fill those out in a minute too. But you get the general idea. You just go through, you follow along in the book as you're making your guy, or gal, or whatever, and fill in the blanks. I don't think we'll give him a magic item necessarily, unless we want to give him one of these. So this is our meta plot. Look, the octave scales. They are some kind of creature scale, perhaps a dragon scale, that has been carved down and used and emblazoned with an emblem and given magical stuff that will help it open the main door of our Under the City dungeon for a later adventure. They've found one of these already. They will see at the Masquerade Ball. I believe that several other prominent NPCs at the Masquerade who live in the town are wearing these. They've been around in the city for a little bit, and they are used as sort of a badge of honor, of nobility, and I think our bad guy's going to have one. So, down here in magic items, I'm going to give him an octave scale. So in this world, if you are new to the channel, music and magic are intertwined. Music is all over the place. A lot of the countries are named after musical styles or instruments. Everything's a musical pun. Some of your weapons are also musical instruments. For example, an axe could also be some sort of guitar because it's pretty metal, and I like it. I think this guy's rapier is going to be an instrument also. And I think it's going to be a fife. If you don't know what a fife is, it's a kind of flute sort of thing, popular in colonial America. So we're going to give him a fife rapier, which is part instrument, part weapon. So he's going to have a tiny little bit of musical skill. He does have a little bit of performance, so that's going to help him there. And the reason I'm doing that is because I want there to be another option. Later on, we're going to talk about having non-combat options, and I want this guy to have another option for how to settle this conflict. This is the guy that's trying to forcibly marry our Evie Nix. Live for your die bard. Yeah. That's it. Yeah, Live for Your Die Bard originally comes from a group that my gaming group, we made all bards and went into a game with a mega dungeon in it, and at low levels bards are not the hardiest in the world, so we ended up actually dying bard, but the point was we had fun. And the characters that took their place were a little more, let's say power gamer ish. Still fun. But yeah, so this is technically Live for Your Die Bard too, but it was too good of an idea to pass up. So we're doing the whole world. Has some music magic in it. Anyway, we got a Fife Rapier. That's for later. I'll explain. His attack is going to be based on his level and his skill with the Fife Rapier. So you can make your feats and things like that match up to get that attack bonus that you want. I believe Rapier is a piercing weapon, and the range is melee. Melee is hand-to-hand combat if you don't know D&D that well. Ranged is your bows and crossbows and things like that. So Fife Rapier, we can give it some special qualities later on if we want to, but that'll be his little special token for later on. I'm not going to fill out the entire character sheet. You can go through your own player's handbook and make your own NPCs if you want to. The DMG has pre-built stuff if you need that. The monster manual has pre-built NPCs with stat blocks, and you can use those also. Very convenient. In fact, we may end up using this for our guards just to save time. Armor, we're going to give him a little bit of armor. Let me go up to, let's see if the 5th Ed has any gear in it. I don't know if they do or not. Expenses, spellcasting. They do have backgrounds. Flip backgrounds. Yeah, backgrounds give you proficiency in a couple of skills. This is something that you pick at character creation when you're making your player character. Yeah, music and magic being intertwined. In this case, our meta plot has to do with the Church of Rhea has figured out a way to brand people magically so that they can no longer use musical magic. They are prohibited while they have the brand on them from accessing their spellcasting abilities and special powers. Okay, let's go down and find... all kinds of cool stuff. Yeah, I don't think this one's all the way finished. Let me see if I can just search for so I can show you. They did have it, and I just missed it. Yeah, this is the one I want. This is on www.5esrd.com. This is the one you want. So we can look up some of our cool stuff here. I'm on the equipment section, and I want, let's look at some leather armor. So we're looking to match our character sheet, which was, I believe, where was this AC? Up here somewhere? Yeah, we need a base armor of 12, so let's find that on our one of these. So something a little heavier than leather. Let's try studded leather. That's a 12. And it lets you use your dex modifier. So that's what we're going to use for armor. Let's go back here and give him down here. Studded leather. That gives you 12. This might actually auto-calculate. I might not have needed to put that in there. And a max dex, it doesn't matter. probably 3 or something. Okay, yeah, that didn't change anything, so we're good there. All right, that's the armor. Now we need. Let's look at where were we? Weapons. Go back to equipment. Weapons. Let's look down for rapiers. Here's a rapier. Alright, rapier does 1d8 piercing, and you can use the finesse special rule if you need to, which is I think where you use your dexterity in place of your strength for calculating, which will help with our bonus thing. So I'm going to make this. This is a little too deadly for my taste, so I'm going to give him the d8. And he doesn't have any strength bonus. So we'll just do that. We'll leave his attack at +3. As we can say, this is could be a finely made rapier. I think it's masterwork. I don't remember if that's what they call it in this edition or not, but that's that. What else did we need? Saves and skills. Let's look up proficiencies. We made him a paladin. Oh, that's good. Okay, saving throw proficiencies are wisdom and charisma. So you can come in here and click wisdom and charisma, and it auto calculates a little bonus into your total for what you're proficient with. Very handy. And then we go back to here. Okay, here's your equipment that you get. We're not going to worry about that because he's not going to have all of his equipment on him. He's traded out his chainmail for some studded leather for this particular occasion. And then here's his special stuff that he gets, Divine Sense and Lay on Hands, which is a healing kind of power. Doesn't have any spells yet, so we don't have to worry about that. I'm not going to worry about him being too ridiculously tough, because this is a level 1 mini-boss. Yeah, and then it explains it down here what all these things do. So you don't have to worry about that. For a low-level kind of thing, don't give yourself too many rules as the DM if you're a new DM. Greetings to Demon Knight. Welcome to the chat. Everything's going great over here. Having a good day. It's a little rainy where I am, but it's normal. We are at the climax of our adventure with the massive battle of the Ballroom Blitz. For those of you who are just joining us, we are making our mini-boss Brad to the bone. Let's see. Yeah, Dex with a rapier. It would be with finesse, wouldn't it? So that's where he's getting that other +1, I assume. So let's not worry about too much of that. I don't think we have any of these that we need to worry about. Feats. And we don't need any third-party feats. I may not have this finished, yeah. Yeah, some of these online sites are not complete necessarily, or I may not have the right script turned on to run the whole thing, but... where was the... Oh, here it is. Equipment. Yes, we go to weapons, and then we go back to the... What was the rapier? Rapier, finesse. We can click on finesse. When making an attack with a finesse weapon, you use your choice of strength or dex on the attack and damage roll. So we can give him a +1 for his damage also, which would be appropriate to, there it is. Okay, so he has a +1 to attack for being a paladin, +1 to attack from his dex from finesse, which we'll put in here. Finesse. Weapon. And then let's make it a masterwork to account for the other +1. Masterwork. Fife, rapier. Okay. So that lines those things up. You don't have to get this all perfect. Most of your gamers are not going to pay that much attention. There is one that will, and you know who he is. Paulie the Power Gamer is going to know when you roll your die and say what the numbers are. He's going to start figuring out in his head. He does it naturally. It's part of his makeup. He's trying to figure out how strong a person is. Because in real life, if you're fighting somebody, you're trying to figure out how strong they are. You're trying to figure out what they know based on what you can see. In the game world, as a GM, you can't describe all those little niceties. So Paulie the Power Gamer is going to look for the number crunch to figure that out. Masterpiece. Oh, that's so kind. You're talking about me, right? Yes, feel free to ask questions in the chat. If I don't get to them, there are quite a few other good GMs in here that will definitely tackle them for you. Player's Handbook class, yep. There's lots of little nuances to these sorts of things. I tend to side with players who want to do something cool, but not always. It's going to be game-breakingly bad, and sometimes I do not side with players, but it depends on what the rule is. So feel free. Where were we? Let's see, I've got too many tabs open. Alright, I'm not too worried about giving them all the rest of the stuff for now. We can come back and clean this up later if we need to. Mostly we're worried about making sure that this guy is fleshed out enough. He does have a masquerade mask as one of his items, so they won't know who he is exactly, even if they've researched him or met him before. They're going to have to do a little bit of investigation at the masquerade to find out who he is. He doesn't have any spells. We did, if you weren't here last time, we do give our NPCs some characteristics to make it easier on the GM when they go to voice and do mannerisms. So his voice is, he stutters occasionally. He probably gets really angry about that. So let's put that in here. So stutters occasionally, as I do, which infuriates him. Mannerisms, smarmy, grinning, and strokes his chin with gloved fingers. So he's an old-timey villain from like Snidely Whiplash. Then click OK to save it. Ideals. Believes in personal gain above all other things, including his duties to church and family. We'll put that as a flaw. These are actual things in the D&D game that you can use if you want to. I'm using them currently for just to keep some notes in the character bio. Terrified of his elders, family elders, we should say. I imagine that the To the Bones family is a bit rough since they're the bad guys. Oh, thanks for the plug, mod. I appreciate that. You are an awesome mod, unlike other mods who occasionally fall asleep on duty. And my bad. Okay, I joined the game, and when I did, I explained what I wanted to play. Wizard Necromancer, he said I could play anything after I explained what I was planning. An army-style Necromancer, he said I couldn't play it because I'd throw too many dice. I assume because you'd have whole bunches of skeletons and things. I assume that's what I mean. You'd be doing too many attack rolls. I would say, in response to that right away, what I did to alleviate some of the problems of combat taking too long when I had multiple attacks or I had lots of followers and things like that was I picked up a bunch of sets of dice. I got like a rainbow set. So when I need to roll, let's say 7 attacks at the same time, I roll a red d20 with a red d6 and an orange d20 with an orange d6 and so on and so forth. And I take a big old handful, shucka, 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 roll them all at once. If you're using all the same kind of undead, then most of your modifiers are going to be very similar. It's going to be very fast, so not a big deal. I think there's also an option where you can roll single attack die for large groups. I think that's fine too. Yep, squad of swarm minions. Yeah, the swarm rules in D&D 5th edition are not like those in some other editions, so they're actually pretty good for that sort of thing. You could cut it down. That's a really good idea. If you wanted to do it that way. Yeah, his gripe is legitimate. He doesn't want combat to be slow, but I think that there's 20 different things you could do to speed that up and show him that it was going to be fine. You know, rolling them as groups would be fine too, especially if you had like skeletons, zombies, ghouls. Roll each one as a group. That would be good. You could work on, if it gets really crazy, like you have legitimately an army of monsters, you could come up with some sort of average sort of thing for mass battles. I think there's some mass combat rules in one of these books too. I'll pick this one up. I'm going to see if it's got, as my friend loaned it to me. I think he's in chat actually. Stronghold and Followers. Yeah, this one has unit warfare. Let me look in here real quick. 233. Let's see if it's got any good ones. Good pro tips. Yeah, you can do abstractions. A couple of points from Stronghold and Followers. The physical positions of your units are fairly abstract. You don't have to worry about getting every single miniature on the board. Just have like a representation. It doesn't matter exactly. They can move as units. Individuals don't really matter. Don't worry about individual stuff like buffing a single skeleton or something. It might not be that important unless he's soloing somebody. Yeah, in this one, it's your army is made up of units. Each unit has a card with stats or a sheet with stats, and we track it that way. So, yeah, he's got some basic rules for how to do that. If you want some alternate rules, this is a good book to do that for Strongholds and Followers. You can look it up online, I'm sure, too, if you don't want to actually get the physical book. But I'm borrowing from my friend, so that was a good one. That's higher level. I was planning on this a group of 20 skeletons per group, 70 skeletons, and all in 3 whites. That's pretty good. Had a similar roll by a DM, but we played online and rolled 20, so maybe not as easy to do that dice trick. Also true. Yep. Yeah, there's a handful. I would go for it. I would also, if he's really concerned about it, yeah, it's a little tricky. Yeah, at low levels, I don't think that's going to be an issue. I can see at higher levels it being a little slower, but it's not going to be any slower than, say, like a monk with 7 attacks rolling. So it's going to be similar for all the high-level people. Think about like a high-level spellcaster that has, I don't know, he's controlling a golem or an earth elemental or something, and he's got extra things going on, or somebody, a summoner type. It's the same issue. So you will be among good company. Even high-level fighters can have just a ridiculous number of rolls to make. You already made your roll up that different class. Well, what are you playing now? Maybe it'll end up being the same kind of thing. Or you could just play some kind of big old two-handed weapon rogue and super cheat. Anyway, though, I'll continue while we're still talking about that. That's pretty good for this guy, I think. So we filled out the majority of his character sheet. We can go back in and fill in details later. So you go to the bottom, click Save, and Baron Bred to the Bone is pretty well filled out. And now we need to make sure that we can get to him in our adventure log. Let's go back to our adventure log. We're going to edit. Yeah, we had a monk character one time, and this is more than one game actually. It's happened. Some of the monks, as they get to high levels, you end up grabbing handfuls of dice and you're rolling. As your turn ends, you start rolling the next round, because by the time it gets back around to you, you'll have to have all that stuff calculated again. It's a lot. All right, we're down to the bottom. We have our battle going on. We need a link to get to the character that we need. So let's go to our character link. You can search by tags that you've put on, like foes. Right here, he's a foe. You can search by name if you need to. Luckily, he's right here at the top. I'm going to open him up to view him and then also insert him. The reason I'm opening him up to view is so we can look here. And let's see if this gives me. I'll copy this link, and we're going to do that little trick I was talking about at the beginning of the stream. I want this twice, so I want another character link. One for the picture. Don't forget to put your exclamation points around the sides. And then let's save it and make sure we get that picture in there. Made an alchemist artificer from Unearthed Arcana. His background worker style, who is making explosives and poisons. Oh, explosives are good. That's good. I suspect that you'll be looking up enough rules and things like that for all of your special effects that it will take about the same amount of time as it would have if you let you play your original character concept. I'm kind of a fan of the, I like the, there he is, Baron Bred to the Bone in his masquerade mask. I like the idea of the necromancer army. I've played in a couple of games where that has been a thing, and it's awesome in combat. It's really cool to have extra bodies. The economy of action helps out an otherwise fairly squishy character, because most necromancers are, if they're getting hit, they're in trouble. One of our necromancers rode around inside the rib cage of a giant skeleton at one point as sort of a walking mech suit, which was fun. And that was a while ago. It's not too bad. And then there is a downside. The downside is, of course, you show up at a town with your army of skeletons, and all the guards come out to stop you because they assume the worst. But I think it's kind of cool. Tinker's tool, blacksmith, You got all the tools. Nice. Very cool. That's a cool concept too. It would be funny if the alchemist is studying how to make alchemically enchanted creatures, and you end up with an artificer army of like mechanical beings instead of the skeleton army. It could be kind of neat. Little, be like, hey, well, you wouldn't let me do it the other way, so now we're doing it this way. Be interesting. Anyway, all right, so we got Brad down here. We can click on his image. We can click on his link when we need to go to his character sheet and pull that up. You can pull it up in a separate tab if you need to. You can move your tabs around so it's easy to see. And you get, when you click on it, his character sheet pops up. So you have stats ready to roll. You can keep track of stuff however you need to. And I don't think you can click on this one. You have to actually go to the edit, but makes it nice and simple. So we've got Brad. We need some guards. I'm going to show you another method to get guards, even though we've already done our little calculation. I believe there are some guards in the back of the monstrous, if I'm not mistaken. Let me find some here. Yeah, so there's an appendix in the back of the monster manual. Oh yeah, Army of Golems. Yeah. Okay, so Appendix B in the back of the monster manual, starting on page 342, has a bunch of NPCs you can use as quick and dirty stuff if you just need a quick stat block with some information on them. They have Acolyte, Archmage, Assassin, Bandit, Bandit Captain, Berserker, Commoner, Cultist, Cult Fanatic, Druid, Gladiator, Guard, Knight, Mage, I think that here's more. Noble, Priest, Scout, Spy, Thug, Tribal Warrior, and Veteran. So we will probably use either Guard or Thug. Let me look at them real quickly. Thugs are a challenge 1/2, so they're worth 100 XP. Guards are a challenge 1/8, and they're worth 25 XP. So we want the 1/8 challenge because we're dealing with some fairly low level dudes. So we would give Brad here 3 guards. We're going to modify them slightly. What we are going to do is do our little table trick that we've already used. I'll show you how to do that. That we used for the rats. Get to the section with rats round and round. I'm going to copy and paste the code for this and put it down here, and we're going to fill in what we need. Copy. Paste. That's Control C and Control V on a Windows machine. 6 Artificer, 3 Cleric Healer, 11 Warlock Demon Blade Pact. Yeah, that's a good combo. We'll have access to quite a lot of goodies by the end of it, depending on what order you go in. That could be helpful. Yeah, sounds like a cool build. And you sort of get to do what you want to do, just not exactly. Sometimes we have to deal with GMs who don't let us take what we want, but just keep it in your pocket for next time, next game. All right, so we're doing guards. Okay, so here's our little snippet of code that we just pasted in. We want to have the guards information right here ready to go so it's easy to access. So we're going to make a little mini stat block based on this other one. So instead of rats, we're doing guards. I don't have a link for them yet, so let's take out this little link. section. And we'll put to the bone family guards. They don't have any special senses or powers. We'll take that out. So this is the format for tables. If you want a table in your textile, this is textile. If you don't know, it's a little mini markup language for shortcuts. Makes it nice and easy to edit things. So my players have promised not to watch the stream, I assume. No. My goal is to change things ever so slightly when I run the game. That they will be a little bit confused. Also, we don't plan on playing instantaneously, so it'll be a little while. They're forgetful. They're all middle-aged dudes. It's not, yeah, it'll probably be fine. But I think they'll play along and be cool. Someone wants to play a magus. Oh, I heard the trick with those is to approve them, and then like when it comes time to actually play them, be like, nah, I was just kidding. Yeah, so some of the people I intend to run this for the first time are actually in the stream right now, so they are watching closely and taking notes. But the general idea is that the fun of the game in that case will be them getting to play the characters that they want to play and doing funny musical pun things and stuff like that. Not so much the surprise of the plot line, since they will know that ahead of time. But that being said, you can use Obsidian Portal if you want to keep all of your stuff GM only and keep secrets. You can add player secrets that only certain players can see, that kind of stuff. If you want to do it sort of a traditional way, I'm doing it all in the open so that if anybody wants to come in after the fact and look at my notes and see how I arrange notes, they will have that as access to that. So that's the price of doing business there. All right, let's fill out our table. So you divide your different sections by these little horizontal bars that probably have a name and I've forgotten it. We talked about this a couple streams ago. And then you'll fill in the blanks as you go down here. So this line, speed, HP, AC, reach, attack, damage, XP. And this line for your ability scores are static, and then we're going to want to fill out the rest of them. I'm going to base it loosely on the guards out of the book. So we will go in here and fill some things out. So we want to have 30 feet of speed. That seems fine. Their hit points are 11. In this case, I'm going to make them very slightly weaker than that. I'm going to give them 10 hit points. Not quite as tough as a regular guard. Next is AC. Their AC is going to be decent. Guards out of the book have a chain shirt and a shield, which gives them a 16 AC. These guys are at a party, they're not going to have a shield. Chain shirt seems a little more legitimate, but I'm also thinking they're not the fastest in the world. I want the players to be able to hit them, so I'm going to give them a 13, which is similar to what we have on our statistics chart from before when we were creating the encounter, trying to balance it. I'm finding ways to work around my DM. I was tempted to build a mech with my person and then use Warlock Pact weapon to make me proficient with it. That's an interesting idea too. Yeah, my personal philosophy is the players are the center of things, and whatever their character, whatever cool character concept you have, as long as it is not going to totally ruin the game for everyone else, I think it's pretty cool, and we will try and find ways to make it work. There are games where that won't work well, like if you've made, let's say, a very specific genre and somebody wants to play outside of that genre. It can cause some issues. If you have an anachronistic thing going on, like if you want to play a game about let's say 1920s gangsters, and you have somebody who plays something that's not of that time period. He wants to play something like that fits better in the 50s or the 60s. It's not going to match up exactly. It might be issues, and you have to go back and forth a little bit and do some concessions. But I think most players and GMs can work out something that will make everybody happy. 15-foot robot with a sword and a siege crossbow. Yeah, I would approve that. I don't. If it were me, how would I do that as a DM? If I wanted to give you that and have that be usable in my campaign, I think what I would do is you could have the cool stuff like that. Maybe you have it even at lower levels, relatively lower levels, but for some reason it's not fully functional yet, and as you level up you learn the secrets to make it work. For example, you get the mech pretty early. It can move around and it can do some fighting, but there's some sort of magic rust on it that you have to figure out the formula to dissolve the magic rust, and that's going to take some research. And you can still use it, it's just a little slower. It only does one attack a round. The attack's not 100% yet. And then you stage it up over time to make it match. That's, I think, what I would do in that particular case, because that sounds cool. And then same with the undead army thing. I like the idea of the undead army. You just come up with a way to make it so that they can do what they want, but it's still somewhat limited. All right. Let's keep filling out our chart. The reach is still melee, 5 feet. The attack, I want to give them a little bit of an attack. In the book, the guard attack, your attack here is a +3 to hit. I think that seems consistent with what we had before. They give them a spear, does 1d6 + 1 piercing damage. Yeah. But just 1d6. We won't give them a +1. We'll give them a lower strength. 1d6 piercing damage. What else do we have here? Points of 10. Okay, what? They're giving 25 XP. We want to also give something like 25 XP. Something pretty close. We're going to rearrange the stats a little bit. They have 13, 12, 12, 10, 11, 10, which is pretty nice, but we want our strength to be lower. So I'm going to do a 10 strength. No, I'm going to do an 11 strength. Wait, is it 12? Yeah, 12 is +1. Let's do that, which would make this +1 after all. We can deal with that. And then you just adjust as you go. I think the AC is fine as is. We'll make their con also a 10, which gives a +0. And we'll make these. Let's give them a 9, which I believe is a -1. 10 is fine there. We'll make them a little more charming than normal. And 12, which is a +1. Okay, so there's your little table for your quickie stat block. You can go on to give them skills and languages and things like that if you need to. We're not going to worry about that right now. That's pretty good for just stealing out of a book and modifying. It's not stealing, it's what all artists do. Oh, mine. Oh, that's a good idea. Okay, so when you weren't using the army of undead, stick them in a mine. That's really good. Yeah, any kind of work that you can get them to do. That'd be good too. Like if it's very obvious that your DM is getting annoyed at you constantly throwing skeleton armies at things, you can take a break for a while and yeah, keep 3 whites. Whites are really good, which you can upgrade to whatever. Again, 3.0 is I'm thinking of Dread Wraiths or something like that. But yeah, whites are brutal. Are whites one of the ones that can make their own undead, or is that still too low? I can't remember now. I've played too many editions, I can't remember. Anyway, let's go down and look at our... Here's what we got. Okay. Got our picture of Brad to the Bone. We've got a link that will take us to his character sheet. And then here's the To the Bone family guards. Quickie little thing. Everything lines up correctly. So basically, whatever stats you need, right there at your fingertips, ready to go. You don't have to have a separate notebook open. You can just run everything right off of here. It's easy to go. Easy peasy. All right. So these are our main bad guys. Let's map out how we want the combat to go, knowing that it probably won't. But you do want to give some guidelines, especially when you're writing adventures for other people. And like, sort of, this is what we plan. And then we'll see how that works. Okay, so we can, let's just write out generally what we want the GM to know. The DM. Dread Knights, yeah. Ooh, that's a lot of zombies. I like zombies. Good fodder. If you need a good escape route, just throw some zombies in the way and run the other direction. That's a good one. All right, let's talk about our situation of the Ballroom Blitz. So we need a couple conditional kind of things that are going on here. Basically, what will trigger them, what they will do, and then what are the conditions of them ceasing combat, which is generally good to have. Monsters is a little easier to run because you just run them on whatever instincts the monster would have, or animals, whatever. But NPCs have to have a little bit of a motivation. So Baron Brad. How do we spell Brad? Brad is easily offended and will challenge anyone who crosses him either to a duel or, if he is fully incensed, a fight. He has no compunctions. That's not how you spell compunctions. That's not either. There it is. Functions about calling his family guards in to help him if he senses he may lose. The guards take orders from members of the To the Bone family in order of rank, but will not do anything truly suicidal. So if your guards have 10 hit points and they get hit once really hard for 8, they will stop fighting. And stuff to make it easier, but the DM didn't want me going hardcore. It's cute. If the DM, if your DM played with the group that I play with, that would be all the time. Because usually what we do is our first set of characters are kind of heavy roleplay characters. They've got some interesting things that you would make, and they're much more about story. If those characters die in horrible, messy ways, and we're then sometimes we tend to swing the other direction, and we find some rules that make it so that survival is much more guaranteed. Because making characters takes a while, especially as you go up levels. So we don't want to do a lot of work on that. So we make people that can survive a lot, like shield tanks in a Pathfinder game that have hundreds of hit points and ridiculous dragon-like armor classes, and the enemies just stop fighting that guy after a while when they realize they can't hit him. that kind of thing. So yeah, we ours is sort of a crucible, a trial by fire. Yeah, the game that I'm writing now is much more for a standard sort of middle of the road group, not for like a power gamer heavy group. That you would need to know your rules a little bit. 17 Necromancer 3 Fighter Champion. That could be cool. What I've heard in different different game systems will have different, like, well, this is really overpowered, but there are certain ones that would be ridiculous. Of course, on the same token, there are lots of tools that the GM would have to, if they want to find a weakness in any build, they could. They just have to dig around until they find something. Not that that's really the purpose of the game. The purpose of the game is to have fun and to make epic heroes that are really cool and do really awesome adventures and have fun stories. All right, Baron Brad is easily offended and will challenge anyone who crosses him. Guards take orders from family members. In order of rank, but will not do anything truly suicidal. I'm put that family and order of rank thing in there because there will be other members of the To the Bone family in the crowd. We want to have an option for if things start going really bad, some elder member, some uncle or something like that, or aunt will call off the guards if they're about to murder the PCs. So we're going to do that. If it looks like Baron Brad is going to murder the party, and elder, aunt, or uncle from the family will call off the guards and try to stop the bloodshed. If Baron Brad sees that he is completely outmatched, he will try to flee or surrender in shame if escape is impossible. All right. Brad's bodyguards need to be named George and Thorogood. Nickname the Destroyers. I like that. Let's put that in. George and let's fix our spell. Thorogood, right? Thorogood. A.K.A. the Destroyers. That's funny. George, Thorogood, get over here. Destroy these people. before I get mad. As a stutter. The character. Okay. Brand minutes sees he's completely unmatched. He will try and flee, surrender in shame if escape is impossible. Okay, so we've given Brad lots of hit points. So it's up to the GM, the DM, to decide when the fight is over, if they do physically fight him. We've given them lots of escape methods. We have the glass doors out back. We have the ways into the mansion that he could use. He could go out a window into the alley. Whatever. But we do want Baron Brad to live to see another day. We want him to be a recurring villain. And we want him to come back later and get his comeuppance if he remains evil, or be convinced to join the cause of good if they are especially good role players. But this is their first encounter with the mini-boss, so we don't want to make it too crazy. Leave lots of flexibility for your GM. Don't make it like if Baron Brad loses exactly 50 hit points, then he leaves, because that gives him less flexibility. I'd write it more like when he sees it's going bad, he just takes off. All right, we've mentioned a duel, so we will have to come up with some rules for dueling in our world. But let's talk very quickly about combat. For those of you, I imagine many of you in the chat have run D&D combat before. But if you're unfamiliar with 5th edition or unfamiliar with role-playing game combat in general, I'll walk you through it very quickly. Just go clone just in case. All right. Let me get to my other book here. Just as a real quick reference to how combat works in D&D for brand new people. I'll walk you through it real fast. This is in Chapter 9 of your Player's Handbook. And if you want to look that up, either online or if you have the book itself, it's kind of essential to run the game, to have some access to it. There's sort of an order to things, and there's lots of details and little cool things that you can do, but I'll go through real fast. First is surprise. The DM determines if anybody is surprised or not. Usually this is some sort of dexterity stealth roll versus a wisdom perception, either a check or a passive skill. It's basically how stealthy am I versus how perceptive are you. If I'm successful, then I get to ambush you. And then a lot of the times nobody's going to be surprised. It's not going to be a stealthy attack. If you're surprised, you can't move or take an action on your first turn of the combat. It's like a free round for the other guys. And you can't take a reaction until that turn's over. Initiative happens after you figure out if anybody's surprised or not. That's the order of turns. This is common in many types of role-playing games. In 5th Ed D&D, you do dexterity checks that are modified by various things. Whoever has the highest roll goes first. In the case of ties, the DM decides who goes first. Or you can do house rules if you have other ways of determining that. Everybody takes turns in order. On your turn, you do some stuff. And then once everybody has taken a turn, you start a new round if the combat is still going. And you keep doing that until combat is over, or everyone's dead, or whatever. On your turn, what can you do? You can take one move, one action, and then one bonus action, which is a special thing that you'll get from your class, for example. It might give you a bonus action. There's also things called free actions. Free actions are things like talking and shouting and pointing, stuff like that. You can have those up to a sort of logical amount of what you can do in a handful of seconds. But you get one move and one action, which you can take in various, whatever order that you need to. There's also an option for reactions. Certain special abilities, spells, and situations allow you to take a special action called a reaction. It's an instant response to something else. So it's triggered by something. like an attack of opportunity is triggered by certain conditions. You take the one attack. You only get one of these reactions per turn. So that's the basic flow of how things work. And then you can read in your player's handbook for more details about specifically all the different rules that go with those sorts of things. Actions in combat, kind of stuff you can do. You can attack, you can dodge, disengage, cast a spell, hide. All these are detailed. I'll have to read those rules, but those will be important to know when you get ready to run your combat encounters as a DM. Those are the ones that you're going to want to have fresh in your brain for the first time you do it. After you do it about 10 times or so, most of that stuff will be second nature, and you'll only have to look up the weird rules like artificer, mechs, and explosion potions. All right, so that's basically how that is going to work when they go into combat, if they decide to go into combat. If they try and take Baron Brad's soon-to-be wife in the midst of a wedding ceremony, perhaps, which would be occurring right around here. I'll put in some notes off stream about how that's going to go down. But we're focused on combat right now, so we don't need to worry about that. What happens if they don't want to do that? What are the other options? So let's say you have a heavy role-playing group that wants to avoid combat at all costs. Let's say you have you're running a game for younger players and you don't want to have bloodshed in your game. It might be a good idea to have some alternate methods of resolving conflict ready to go. I would say in this particular case, we have a couple of different alternate combat options that we can use. And I think that we can make a little accordion for our different options. Let's do option one. Let's come up with a couple of different versions of these. I've got some notes, but if anybody has any ideas of other ways to do combat, feel free to chime in the chat. Hi, Obsidian, gentlemen. The gentleman's thoughts. Hi, back to you. Welcome. We are currently making our combat climax for our level 1 adventure. So option 1 for non-combat alternatives is talking it out. So you have some sort of role-playing option. Let's call it talk the talk. So Baron Brad is not particularly intelligent. And can be drawn into a conversation, let's say a confusing conversation. Or other distraction. Let's call it verbal distraction. Other verbal distraction. If the party wishes to avoid a fight. So we want to give some guidelines about how they would defeat him, quote unquote, in this case. If he can be publicly humiliated, he will let's see, he will attempt a duel, but if he is embarrassed, an extra R, I think. Beyond the initial confrontation, he will depart in anger. All right, so that's one way to do it. They can, of course, come up with other ways, but that's one option. New to DMing. Never heard of Obsidian Portal before. Awesome for planning a campaign. It is. You're doing very well. You never need to apologize for trying out a language. You know more languages than I do, so good job. Yeah, this is Obsidian Portal is really handy for keeping notes and showcasing your gaming campaigns, any kind of role-playing game you want. We're doing D&D 5th edition is a good example because it's very popular right now, but we support any kind of game that you want to run and post onto our pages. You can get a free account to try it out. You can subscribe monthly or yearly if you want to support the site and your fellow gamers. We would appreciate that. But it's definitely worth checking out and trying out. Okay, so option 1, talk the talk. We're good there. We need another option. Option 2, elope. Evie Nix is being watched carefully by the To the Bone family, but it is possible to sneak her away from the party if the observers are sufficiently distracted or otherwise engaged. Haha, engaged. Yes, if you have any questions about DMing as a new DM, please feel free to ask in the chat. We will try our best. We've got lots of DMs in the chat and experienced players as well as some new folks, I think. And if we can't answer, if you have questions later on, you can go to the forums on Obsidian Portal. I'll show you how to get there in just a second. You go up to the top bar up here to quick links, and then you click on forums, and it will take you to the forums where you can ask questions of the many, many users that are there. You can also, let me go back. You also have help, support kind of stuff going on, and you can also direct message people. If you know somebody's username, for example, mine's Jinx JYNX001. If you went to my profile, you can find out more about me, and then there will be a little message thing down here. A little looks like an envelope that you can click and send mail to me if you want to. You can also send messages from your message center up here in the top, the little chat icon message thing, and I will get it. So feel free to ask any questions. We appreciate you being here. Thank you. All right, elopement. We're getting her out of here. Evie Nix is being watched carefully by the To the Bone family, but it's possible to sneak her away from the party if the observers are sufficiently distracted or otherwise engaged. They could use, if you'll recall from one of the previous episodes, there is a way down into the dungeons and then eventually from the dungeons out of the city if necessary. We do need to note here, though, if Her guards find she is missing for more than a few moments. They will begin to search for her. All right, so that's another one. Let's see, option 3, Runaway Bride. The party can attempt escape in plain sight, but will be chased when noticed. The To the Bone family has many resources and allies in town and will use them all to track down their missing almost family member. And you can leave the chase rules basically to whatever the situation demands. All right, so we've saved. That should be, yeah, here's what your accordion textile looks like when you're finished. So it fills it all out for you. So, and then you can go in and edit from there. If you need to add, say, another option, you can just copy paste this and then write your text and give it in before the end accordion tag at the very end. Okay, let's look at what that looks like when we save it, so you can see. All right, this will be all the way at the bottom. And here's what that looks like in our cool text that we learned how to do from the Calac Hacks channel show on Twitch on Tuesdays. So you have your 3 options. If your players decide to, let's say they decide to take the elope option and try and sneak her away, you can click on option 2. It gives you a little guideline. And then everything else is tucked away in the accordion, so you don't have to stare at it until you're ready for it, and then it will open it up for you when you are. And that's it. That's your options for combat. You can add more, of course, as needed. So there's our alternates. After that, you end up with the resolution, which is either they get away or they don't. Either someone's dead or they're not. You may have perhaps performed a duel. I think that we can talk about duels a little bit, since we are in a sort of a Renaissance era, is what we're thinking. Duels would be relatively common and codified. So let's go to our wiki, which is what Obsidian Portal is all about, is the wiki. And I think that we're going to talk about some I don't know if they're necessarily house rules as much as they are cultural kind of things. So, yeah, I think that what we'll do is add an element in here for some sort of culture and history. So let's go in. If you want to add, this is our little image break that we have going on there, where we inserted an image. You do that with image embed. Breaks up the different things. We have the story of Live Free or Die Bard. We want to do something about cultures. So I think we put it in right below religion. So to make a new entry, Let's do cultures and conventions. Or conventional things. That way we can use this for more than one sort of thing. So cultures and conventions. We're going to save it. And here's our new cultures and conventions. You'll notice it's a different color than the rest of our links because there's no link there yet. You click on it, and it takes you to the new wiki page, cultures and conventions. And now we can fill this part in so that we have an entry. So let's see. So it's formalized, formal duels. Let's make it bold and relatively big. I think I don't remember if we had H3 or H2 as our. Yeah, let me check on another tab here real quick. This is our custom CSS. You get this when you have an upgraded account. You can add some fancy new kind of things and get it really looking like you want to. Again, check out some of our campaigns of the month, which you can find when you go to all campaigns up here in the campaign tab. Or check out Calax's stream on Tuesdays. You can check some of the ones in the VOD right now. That will teach you how to do some CSS, but we're looking for H3, gives us our special font, so that's what we want, is the H3. Let's go back here. Let's do an H3 to give us a title, and we're going to call this Formal Duels. Dueling is legal in many kingdoms, provided the official rules are followed. Let's preview real quick so I can show you. Hopefully, if it lets me. There it goes. This is what it will look like when you have the special font for your header 3 there. That's why I use that, because I want it to be fancy font. Dueling banjos is an option. You are correct, Cyber. In fact, that's one of the things that we will be adding right now. Dueling is legal in many kingdoms provided the official rules are followed. Combat duels are conducted in the following fashion, : I want to do a numbered list, so I'm going to use the little numbered list icon here. This is the format that you'll use for that. It's a single # octothorpe. I think it's octothorpe with a space and then whatever you want after it. So let's say the standard dueling kind of rules from history is what we're doing for combat duels. So it's the challenger confronts an individual and challenges them to a combat duel of combat. Duel. Now let's just say a duel, because I have an idea about that. Yes, thank you, Mod. Yes, it is. There is a list if you want to know what's on the different different tiers. There's a list on the site to do that for plans. I think if you go to one of these, yeah, it's up here. It's got it's got pricing options, and then it's got what you get specifically for the different things. So you can check that out when you get a chance. If you don't already have a membership, then if you go to obsidianportal.com and look for plans, that's what you're going to look for. Okay. All right. The challenger confronts an individual and challenges them to a duel. Let's take combat duels out of this because I want this to be actually, there's a little twist. So typically, in a regular duel, whoever does the challenging says, I challenge you to a duel, and then the challengee either refuses or accepts, and there was, in some cases, a convention where whoever is accepting the duel gets to choose the weapon of choice, pistols, swords, whatever, or gets to choose the time and place or some combination thereof. So you can look up some historical dueling rules if you want more details on that, but we're going to do a little twist for our musical magical kingdom. The challenge E, which is not a real word, but we're going to go with it anyway. Let's do challenged individual. The challenged individual, they either accept the duel or decline, which testily admits they were in the wrong. If they accept, they may then ... Okay, I want to do an indented, well, from your perspective, maybe that way, an indented numbered list. And in order to do that, we want not just £1 sign, but £2 signs in space. So this will indent it. The challenge individual, if they accept, then they may choose the nature of the duel, which is either combat, talent. Yeah, let's just do combat or talent for now. Combat or talent. And then another one. And they may choose a weapon instrument method. For example, song, joke, riddle. Duel of riddles would be cool. Or rap. That way we can have rap battles. Honestly, this website is what I was looking for to plan my campaign. Clean layout, super easy to use and navigate. As a bonus, the price is very good too. Very glad I discovered the stream tonight. Well, thanks. We appreciate you being here. I'm glad we could show you how the behind-the-scenes stuff works, so we'll see if it was right. That was sort of the purpose of the stream. So take a look. And let people know if it's right for you. Glad you could be here. Let's see. You can choose the weapon, instrument, or method like song, joke, riddle, rap, etc. And then they also, I want one more. They may choose time and place of the duel. So the challenge E, the challenged individual, gets a lot of options. So it's better in some cases to be challenged than to be the challenger. All right, and then next on our list, we're back to a single pound sign, which will bring us back from the indent to point number 3. So in normal historical dueling rules, you would choose a second. Both individuals choose a second to act as their lieutenant. That's how I have to spell lieutenant, as I say light-e-u. It's like if you're spelling beautiful and you do the Jim Carrey B-E-A-beautiful. That's the only way I get through some of my spelling. Or you just use the spell checker, because it'll spell check it for you. Both individuals choose a second to act as their lieutenant. The seconds meet to negotiate. They may decide on a peaceful resolution, different terms of the duel, consequences of the duel, or may choose to change nothing. Their agreements are legally binding, so they often use witnesses or formal contracts to avoid judicial trouble. Okay, after the negotiation, the duel, if it still stands, occurs. And then we'll do some special rules here. Play out combat by the standard play out combat or opposed skill checks as per the rules in the book, or roleplay it. For example, a rap battle, you could roleplay if you gave your player enough time to write down some rhymes and you had done a little bit of that yourself. You could definitely roleplay that out. That would be cool. Oh yeah. We need to add winning conditions into our seconds negotiate. We send a peaceful resolution, different terms in the duel. Conditions to win duel. Consequences of the duel. Choose to change it. Okay. The duel that still stands occurs. Alright, so that way everybody has a little bit of a say. Okay, so that's pretty good for dueling. So let's save that. Alright. Oh wait, I want to put a legal note actually at the end. Duels conducted according to the law of the land. Meaning that circumvent the normal laws against murder, slander, libel, and the like. Murder, assault, slander, libel, and the like. Okay, so if you do a duel according to the rules of the law, you can get away with murder. Good for you. Create. All right, so we've created our page for cultures and conventions with our formal duels rules. I think that we could put a little history in there. We mentioned dueling banjos. Let's put that in here. Historically, dueling came out of a practice in the, hang on a second. I need thesaurus. This will be funny. Just made wiki pages for our campaign's playable races. Awesome. Put a link in the chat if you want. We'll go check it out. It'll be cool. Or let us know the name of the campaign or something. That'd be awesome. Okay, what's a good? Cerulean grass. Azure grass. I'm going for bluegrass. I'm looking for another word for it. I like cerulean. That's cool. We're going to use that. All right. Historically, dueling came out of a practice in the how do you spell it? Cerulean. In the cerulean grasslands, where the banjo tribes would settle their differences with musical competition. Dueling banjos. Got it for you, Cyber. With the banjo tribes. I better capitalize that there, formal. Banjo tribes. You just invented a part of the world. Good for you. Later, poets of royal courts, like poet nobles of royal courts, would challenge each other to rapier battles. Which were conducted with opposing poetry made up on the spot. Let's say insulting poetry. Insulting poetry made up on the spot. These were later shortened to rap battles. Ha. Funny. It is super pretentious. I imagine like the highest knee socks and the pointiest shoes that you can envision. and those floofy pant things that were like made your thighs look really big, that were striped like a Swiss guard kind of thing. Anyway. Okay, historically, dueling came out of a practice in the Cerulean grasslands where the banjo tribes would settle their differences with musical competition. Later, poet nobles of royal courts would challenge each other to rapier battles, which were conducted with opposing, insulting poetry made up on the spot. These duels of wit were later shortened to rap battles. Dueling is legal in many kingdoms, provided the official rules are followed. Duels are conducted in the following fashion. Okay. I need another word for conducted. I've used it twice, I think. Good old thesaurus.com. I'm on here a lot. Conducted is also administered. That's a good word. Administered in the following fashion. And then we get our rules. Let's save it once more. Make sure all of our numbers line up. Yep, it's I'm glad you're getting into it. You guys who are trying out the site, it's pretty easy to learn. It's fairly simple, and you can look up all the different things you can do with textile on it, which is quite a bit. And if you want even more stuff to do, you can get an upgraded account and add lots of custom stuff when you really get into it. But mostly just getting your notes down and getting them laid out the way that you want, kind of like this. So yeah, here's our little indented number system here. So we've got our little bullet point numbers. You can also do regular bullet points that appear as little circles in the same kind of format if you'd rather have this. So these are our rules for the duels. Duel rules. All right, that's pretty good. We've been streaming now for a little while. I think this is a good place to sort of wrap up. This gives them another option for our adventure. If they want to do a duel, they have either combat options, musical options if they are bardily inclined, and if they are not, then they can sort of name the terms. So the idea then is they would somehow confront Baron Brad to the bone. He would challenge them in such a way, and then from there they can decide what the best course of action is as the players. They can either all go in together for a mass melee in the Ballroom Blitz. They can do individual, kind of a duel sort of thing, pick their most brazen, brave person, and they can be the hero of the day, perhaps. If they would rather do a bloodless sort of a thing, there's lots of options for bloodless. They can run away, they can sneak away, whatever they want to do. But that's how they defeat the challenge. They get XP based on defeating that particular person, which is in their stat blocks and things like that. And then hopefully for the end of it, if they are successful, we should give them a reward. So we already know that we have not given them much up till this point. We have had them fight some rats. Let's see how many rats they're fighting. So these guys are worth 20 XP. There are 3 times as many rats as there are players in the party, and only half of that number will attack first. So 3 times 6, there's 18 rats in this first one. So 18 at 20 XP. It's 20 times 20. 2 times 2 is 4. Add the 2 zeros, that's 400 minus 40. That's 360. A potential of 360 XP there. We go down to additional rats, which were here. How many were here? 20 minus equal number of rats to adventurers. So there's 6 of these. 6 times 20 is 180. So 320 plus 180 is 500. So we got 500 XP so far. We go down to the guards. Let's say they defeat both of the guards. What do we say? 500. So 50 XP. So we got 550 XP. And then Brad did the bones worth a bit more than that, and he should bump us up enough to get us, I believe, to the next level. If I remember right. 5th Ed. Experience. Table. This is easier than just... here it is. Yeah, so plenty of points to get us above. So we're at level 2 and possibly at 3 by now. Okay, so we've got them up a couple levels by this point. So we're good to go. All right. So that's that. That gets them boosted up. They've got a way to get through it. Several cases. I'll write a little resolution so we have that for next time. But this is a good spot to stop for now. I'll leave it on Brad as our mini boss. So that's how you do that stuff. I should do it a little more often. Eventually we'll be hopefully playing on stream if I can convince a few people to do it. I might end up running more than one game. Maybe some online friends as well as some IRL friends. We could share the differences in different gaming groups. Yeah, we do it once a week. We're streaming. Currently I am on Thursdays at 11 Eastern time, which I think is GMT -4 if you are international. We will have a slightly different schedule on Thanksgiving, so in about 3 weeks we may not be on Thursday. I might take a little break or move that around, but I'll let you know next week, hopefully, what that's going to be. We also have another stream that occurs on Tuesdays at 10 p.m. Eastern time, GMT -5. That is Calac Codes, and he will show you how to do all kinds of custom coding on his site. So you can see all the really cool stuff that you can make these pages do with just a little bit of code knowledge. And I just started it a couple weeks ago, and it's real easy. You basically go in and copy paste some of the stuff, stick it into your custom CSS, and make your page do almost whatever you want. It's very versatile. There was a fellow on the last stream who was showing off one of his campaigns, and it was he's got like drop shadows and icons and pictures that animate and move and things that zoom in and out, and it's really neat. Drumstick drumline. Yeah, so that's pretty much it for this week. I appreciate everybody who came in and was hanging out with us and in the chat participating. Hopefully we can see you again next week. And you can show off some of your pages too. Feel free to bring links to some of your work. We'll take a look. You can do favorites. You can become a fan of a site and comment on other people's sites and talk in the forums, and that'll be really fun. Awesome. Glad you'll be here next week. See you guys then. Appreciate it. And happy gaming. See you next time.